The cleanup continues in Oklahoma City after this week's devastating tornado which claimed 24 lives. Questions are being asked now already about building codes and regulations surrounding shelters in this tornado-prone part of the United States. Could more have been done to improve the situation since the last major storm went through there in the late 1990s? Joining us at the roundish table this week, Professor Ed Blakely from the United States Studies Centre, the former recovery czar from New Orleans post-Hurricane Katrina and one of the leading experts on disaster recovery, planning and rebuilding in the world today. Ed Blakely, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. When I come back, it's a disaster, so I don't know if I'm really welcome.
Well, we appreciate your expertise. What are your thoughts? Talking to people during the week on the ground, we're saying there's been a debate in Oklahoma. People resistant, and it seems kind of crazy almost, that resistant to the idea of being told that they should have tornado shelters, even though these things are, if not every decade, are certainly very frequent major events.
Well, look, people are resistant to any kind of change. Seat belts on cars, helmets, and all these things save lives, and we're about saving lives. Now, if these people say, hey, I want to die, go for it, but they want to live. And they're taking a chance that affects every one of us, because when their house goes down, who's there? FEMA, the U.S. government, etc. So when you put your life in danger, it's a government responsibility. We can argue about this, you know, on a religious grounds and so forth, but we can't on public safety grounds. In this case, building codes have to go back to where they were. We're building a lot of houses now on slab, and that's a cheap, fast technique. We even knock down hills in this country to make sure the land's flat. Nature has its way. It gets back at you for doing things like this. Now, if you go back several thousand years, Native Americans built mounds in the middle of the country. Why did they do this? They did it in part to affect the weather, because where there are hills and so forth, you don't have a lot of tornadoes. They could also live in them. So we really have to respect nature and make building codes what they were.
So they're not doing the old brick basement underneath the clapboard home.
That's right.
So they're now just doing the kind of cheap shelters you put in slabs.
But we have the Queenslander here in Australia. That was built for the weather. Now we're building against the weather. You never win. You've got to build with the weather. We learned great lessons in Darwin. Those lessons could be applied to Oklahoma.
So do you feel that that's all that's required? Simply that those changes in the building code would probably be sufficient?
Well, no. I would do what the Japanese have done. I would make every single school and most municipal buildings shelters, so that people get out of their automobiles. They know automatically, this is a school, it's a shelter, it's got a deep basement, it's got food and all those other things. Now, if they had a subway system, they could use that, but they don't. So it's possible to take your existing buildings, as we're doing in New Orleans, and convert them to a new municipal use. That's one thing. We have to get away from these big power lines. They're dangerous when they come down. So you have to remove those power lines, particularly in the center of the city. So when you've got in the center of the city, you have the opportunity to put the large conduits in and things like this. So this is an opportunity to rebuild America the right way, not the cheap way.
And people have specifically said that sequestration had nothing to do with the response to Oklahoma at all. They weren't related at all. There was no funding cuts in this particular areas whatsoever. But do you think that things like sequestration and deficit fetishism over the last year or so, or 2 years, could affect response times and responses in the future?
Well, there are two parts to this. One of them is, no, it didn't affect this particular event. But what if we had a chain of events, 3, 4, 5? We don't have the depth anymore. The United States has gone down to a minimum staff. If there were 2 events, everyone says it's a sequester. So you really have to be prepared for these events on a long haul. The sequester is chopping out all the redundancy, all the backup, all the training that people should be getting. It's not happening. So the sequester is having an effect.
Can we get your thoughts on the other big story that is around this week, reporting on President Obama's it being billed as a major counter-terrorism speech earlier today, our time. You were invited to take part in the national intelligence briefing, security call on that. Just how important is this? Because, you know, on the one hand, Chaz is kind of saying, well, it doesn't necessarily change the rules of engagement with drones in a meaningful way. It doesn't necessarily get us any closer to Guantanamo being actually closed. Is this just rhetoric?
No, it's not just rhetoric. The President is taking steps, and the whole National Security Council is behind this, to stop the terrorism from rising up in all these other little places. Let's concentrate on Al-Qaeda. Let's remove the things that keep this going. One of them is hungry kids around the world. You feed them all this rhetoric and they become dangerous, and some of them are homegrown. So what the president wants to do, if you start talking about the war on terrorism, you're actually creating a terrorist. You're making a person feel that they can do something to get their attention. He wants to put that down. That rhetoric has to go down. Let's save kids. Let's make safer homes, safer communities, and stuff like that. So the terrorist then sticks out.
Right. So this is like going from the sort of tough-on-crime policing phase to the let's look at the social causes of disadvantage that creates these people that are radicalised.
Exactly. Remember the old broken windows thing?
Sure.
So let's deal with the broken windows, but at the same time have the social programs that they put in Harlem and other places so kids don't have to become criminals. Improve the schools. So the president wants to do this two-step, get the really bad guys because they're promoting the rhetoric, but start programs in a positive direction so we don't have domestic terrorists in England and the United States.
So do you think that issues like when we talk about the drones and Gitmo and all those kinds of things, do you think that they, in a way, are almost a distraction from the real game, which is the grassroots level?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. The president is a great grassroots guy. That's how he got elected president. And he knows this is the real game, winning over the hearts and minds of people who would step out. But a lot of neighbors see these people who might step out, and they'll start either bringing them in or saying something to somebody else. And that's how we attack the crime issue. That's how you're going to attack this. But the drones are not going away. The drones will be more targeted. The other thing we have to worry about with drones is what happens when police departments start using drones. We're not far away from that. So that's another story, but they will be looking at the bad guys, going to those places. You can do that with a drone. You can't do it with a police car.
The idea of you know, going back to the Peace Corps and so on, America has been sort of had this knowledge that that sending a sack of food aid with an USA stamped on it can be a powerful weapon, whether it was in the Cold War or now in the war on terror. How realistic is it, though, that the United States will be welcome to have that kind of active role in countries, whether it's Yemen or Afghanistan or Pakistan and so on? Well,
the United States is more welcome than you think, and as you know, I travel all around the world, and people ask me, when will we get a Peace Corps person here? I was in Chile. When will we get some more Peace Corps people? I was in Uzbekistan. When will we get some more Peace Corps people here? So people love America and Americans. They don't like war. They don't like the war machine. So what they see, the side of America they like is a side we all like, and that is Americans helping other people.
Right. Well, Ed Blakely, it's always great to see you here. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining us at the Roundish Table.
Thank you.
And that is all the time we have for another edition of Planet America. Next time, we're going to get the first insider account of what really went wrong with Mitt Romney's presidential campaign, and also how Republicans are gearing up to make sure they don't lose again next time.
John, you're talking about Hillary Clinton 2016 again, aren't you?
Almost certainly. Maybe Chris Christie too. Why not?
See you later.
See you next time. Bye.